Every movement starts with a decision. Not your decision, your brain's. Long before you take your first step, lift the weight, or even reach for a cup of coffee, your nervous system has already made a choice, safe or not. When it senses pain, injury, swelling, or even uncertainty, it doesn't ask for permission, it hits the brake. And suddenly the body you know you're capable of feels slower, stiffer, weaker, without ever losing strength. Today, we're exposing the hidden safety system that's been holding you back and showing you why sometimes the fastest way forward is taking your foot off the brake. Welcome back, all you direct current nerds, and thanks for tuning in once again to another Tech Talks. Today, Mason and I are breaking down why your body can hit the brakes on performance, even when the strength, talent, and physical ability are still there, believe it or not. We're going to talk about how pain, fear, swelling, instability, and even previous injury can shift the nervous system into protection mode, and how compensation starts wasting energy where the direct current may fit in to helping improve communication and restore more confident movements. Now, before we even get started, I should probably acknowledge the elephant in the room. This ridiculous pink sparkly crown on my head. Yeah, if you were there last week, Mason and I made a wager on the World Cup final. He picked Spain, and I stupidly picked Argentina. And unfortunately, I'm a man of my word. So I'll be wearing this crown of shame for the entire episode per the terms of this wager. And with that, let me bring in the man who has enjoyed this punishment entirely too much. Our head athletic trainer and founder and president of the National Association of People Who Correct Wikipedia, Mason, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Jake. Way to get your licks in on me while you could right there. Right. It is a prestigious organization, this National Association of People Who Correct Wikipedia. It is. Membership is limited to people who know that you're wrong before you even wrap up your sentence. And I do prefer to think of it more as quality control. And you are one of the main reasons why we established that back in 2023. So thank you for that, Jake. Today's conversation, though, really is about understanding that the nervous system isn't trying to ruin your performance. It's trying to protect you. The problem is that sometimes the protective response stays active longer than it needs to, and it creates muscle guarding, stiff movement, compensation, fatigue, reduced output, just to name a few. We'll explain why simply pushing harder isn't always the answer, and how better sensory input, better communication, and properly reinforced movement may help the nervous system become more confident in what your body can do overall. But before we get into any of that, I do have one important question for you, Jake, since you got your licks in on me. Does this new accessory, is it officially make you the queen of Argentina then?
Well, if it does, I'm raising taxes. Cue the intro. No fluff, no filters, just real talk, real tech, and real outcomes. So lock in, turn it up, and let's get after it. This is Tech Talks. Welcome back, everybody. We have a great show today, Mason. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. We do. We've got a great show. Obviously, you'll have the accessory rocking. We had to sit Sunday. We had to sit there and we just wait for a goal. So in the umpteenth hour, one came through. We got one goal in the World Cup final. But that one goal sealed a victory on my end, I guess.
Boy, it seems weird that to say it was only one goal. I mean, they dominated that whole game. I mean, if it weren't for the goalie, it was Martinez. I mean, he was just a rock star. If they won that game somehow, he would have been the hero. But they were outplayed. Kudos to Spain. The right team won. A little shout out to Spain. I mean, they just played the precision. I mean, just they were unbelievable to watch. I didn't think Argentina was ever even going to get a shot off. In fact, I don't think they did get a shot off.
I think maybe in the last couple of minutes of extra time, stoppage time there, they might have. But yeah, I mean, it was up until we were texting going into extra time saying that Argentina hadn't gotten one off yet.
Yeah, I don't think they did. And well, yeah. So here it is. I'm wearing the this crown of shame. I'm loving it. And let's just dig into it. Now we have the table set. Let's get into the part everybody came for, the meat and potatoes. This is where we stop dancing around the topic, cut straight through the noise, and get into the main flavor of the conversation. And it's a little segment we like to call the steak. And we don't have the transition because we're going to go right here. Boom. All right. Sorry about that back end. I guess we did have the transition. So good for you.
We've always got it ready to go, man. I just hope that there's certain restaurants that don't get their hands on that video, because I might lose you as a podcasting partner if Fleming's gets a hold of that video and sees the resume that you've got on a pan like that.
Boy, yeah, so. I do make a good steak. I'll give you that.
You do.
So, all right, here it is. We're talking about the brake pedal. I want to play a video first, and Mason, and we can start digging into it. Let's check it out.
Nervous system, or your fight or flight response, is overactive, it can contribute to challenges like anxiety, depression, and even panic attacks. The Master Reset is designed to help shift the body out of that heightened state by calming the sympathetic response and supporting your parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for rest, recovery, and regulation. One newbie certified provider recently worked with a patient who arrived in the middle of a panic attack. Using the Master Reset protocol to encourage nervous system balance, the provider helped guide the patient toward a calmer state. Within minutes, their breathing slowed, heart rate decreased, and they were able to regain control. Supporting your nervous system can be a powerful step towards better mental well-being.
So your analogies, car analogies, I use them as well. Pretty exciting stuff. And let's just kick into the first slide, Mason. So, she kind of touched on a little bit of actually a nice broad brushstroke of a lot of things we're going to be talking about. The parasympathetic, the sympathetic, what direct current can do to help that. Let's break it down.
I like that we use that video first, because I think that gives a really good wide scope view of what we're talking about today with the parasympathetic nervous system, these autonomous functions that are happening. There's so many different functions within our body that are just consistently happening nonstop from minute 1 until minute 900. They're always going on. And so this gives a great picture of how direct current can play an effect and a role in that, and why it's so helpful for those different things. So as you can see here, your body can hit the brakes for a lot of different reasons, and a lot of different things can come from that. So as we go down this list, the first one we have here is pain. The big thing with that is if those neuroreceptors in the body, they're receiving those pain signals, the body naturally puts itself into a mode where it feels like it has to protect against itself or any outside factors in order to keep that pain down. In other words, our body, it doesn't want to be in pain. It doesn't want to consistently feel that. So it's going to try to find the things that it can do to lessen that feeling of pain that we get within the body. The big one, if you followed along with us and you kind of know where my mindset is fear, because this really stems from the mental aspect, the confidence that you have in yourself. This does have the biggest impact on the mental side of things. If we're not confident when we're performing activity, whether it's because of injury, skill level, familiarity, playing surface can even play a role in that. If you go out onto a field and it doesn't feel as good as what you're used to with your home field, your confidence is going to drop as you go out and have to perform on that surface. If any of these factors are having an impact on the athlete, on the individual, then they're not going to want to perform at full speed. And contrary to popular belief, your chance of injury skyrockets. It goes up exponentially if we perform scared, or we go out there and we kind of just go halfway with things while everybody else around us is going full speed. We're putting ourselves at a huge risk for injury or implications from doing that. So I'm big on the fear and the mental aspect of that.
And this doesn't just apply to athletes either. I mean, your body can go into this fight or flight mode quite easily, regardless of what it is you do for a living. So you could see a lot of benefit of using direct current. And one of the first videos I want to kind of cut to is, a protocol we used to have that was set as mainly just for concussion protocol, but we use it for a lot of other things. And we have a video here talking about it. It was his son, and he was working with his dad, who was dealing with, he actually had a stroke. And so there was some areas in his body that just weren't firing up. And this is his response using direct current.
Using in the past throughout his traditional therapy were directly stimulating the muscles and didn't necessarily translate to whole muscle group systems and didn't connect to his nervous system as much. So using the ARP really allowed us to wake up the whole chain of his rear leg or the front of his leg or all the way down to the foot and calf and ankle area, and allowing him to make connections to not only the muscle where the stimulation is being delivered, but also the muscles down the chain that he's hoping to activate with those primary muscles. So being able to wake up some of those nerves and wake up that feeling and experience of moving things in his arm and his leg has really been amazing.
One of the biggest aha moments, the first time I've had an experience with direct current and using it, administering whatever protocol on somebody, to see them get sensation for the first time after they haven't felt it for so many years, it's an emotional moment. And, the interesting thing is with this direct current, you're kind of retraining. So you could essentially change someone's way of life just with this technology. And that's the beauty of this particular subject matter we're talking about, because it's that fight or flight mode that I've seen direct current just do such a good job in helping kind of pull them out of that, bringing them back to the parasympathetic.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there, Jake, with just what that reaction can be that first time that the user is able to let that guard down. With a lot of these people with chronic issues going on, they've gone so long with their guard up. And so to have something that you can implement like a foot bath to let somebody's guard down and really let them kind of feel what their body is trying to tell them, it's extremely impactful.
Let's get to the next slide here, because us both being kind of car guys, at least for the most part, using it as sort of an example all the time. Let's break this one down. Like how can we compare sort of our body? How does it react to an engine? How are we pushing the brake?
Yeah, I mean, you look at a car and there's so many different systems going on within the car. You've got intakes, you've got exhausts, you've got your engine, transmission, all the electronic. Don't even get me started on the electronics nowadays within cars. You get a drop of water on the wrong thing and you've got it in the shop for 3 weeks and $4,000 to replace a computer chip. So there's so many different systems going on with a car. That's the exact same as what's going on with our body. And these systems all have to work together. If they try to work independently with each other, it just causes a lot of issues. And so if we can get these systems to work together, not have one of them be in fight mode while the rest are in flight mode, we get the body to work more like a well-oiled machine, like a high-end sports car. Now, on the flip side, if we have different components, different parts, different systems that aren't doing their job, aren't communicating with the rest of the team correctly, then you get into a situation where movement or going down the drag like this car on the right here is doing becomes much more difficult. As you can see, he's got his brakes slammed while he's also probably got the gas pedal to the floor too, because he's trying to tell his body to do one thing, but his mind is putting that blockage up, that guard up. And so what he's doing, he's just inefficiently sitting there laying rubber down in the same spot while the car on the left is heading for the checkered flag. And that's the best way we can kind of make that connection between all of our car folks or people that just have a car sitting out in their driveway versus, or comparing it to the body, I should say.
Kind of like on the left is Spain and on the right is Argentina.
At least on Sunday, nonetheless, too.
So there's another video kind of to your point of what we're talking about. We work with a doctor. He's happens to be one of the independent chiropractors for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's a big direct current guy, using it for certain things kind of specific to what you were talking about, Mason, using it for movement and proprioception. Take a look.
I'm resetting their nervous system. 2 pads on the back, crisscross, 2 pads on the feet. They're just on the wobble chair, just kind to reset proprioceptive fibers in there. So what I'm doing there is bringing him in all different ranges of motion and all different movements into that area.
It's pretty interesting, that wobble chair. It's his theory behind that, and he's been doing it for quite some time, I believe, is that you're getting some sort of movement, but you don't have to get a lot of movement with pressure on your joints. So the wobble chair was kind of his response to that. and he had a couple other, pieces of equipment where you're sitting down. So don't think you have to go through extreme things for this device to work.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about on the last slide. And Dr. Liebman kind of brings that full picture for us, is that there's so many systems trying to communicate with each other. That's how, something like proprioception or balance takes place, is the brain is trying to figure out what movements it needs to send, or what movements it has to send messages to get those muscles to contract. You have nocioreceptors that are sensing pressure in different areas. So, am I leaning to the left or the right? And by using direct current to enhance those pathways, we can usually see quicker and better results by using that. And then we can start to get into those functional tasks. The fun part that you and I love, kind of that stage 3 of getting back to activity, is where we can really understand if the body is able to withhold itself and perform in a normal day-to-day routine, or even further so in competitive activity.
That's a great way to unpack that. And it also made me kind of internalize it and bring it back to myself. And just had an aha moment just now, because I'm sitting on my right butt cheek, leaning to my right, but to balance the crown, leaning to my left. So, that way I'm not compensating and kind of risking injury, correct?
Yeah, and I think we should put a disclaimer out there too, Jake, because obviously everybody knows, if you joined us on our last live workout, Jake is no small fry. That crown that you have on there, Jake, that's metal. Okay, it's not just a piece of plastic that's tilting you off and getting your spine all out of line. That is a true metal crown. I think we looked, and it is some level of platinum with some rubies in there. So there's a lot of weight to that, Jake. Don't feel bad that it's kind of throwing you off of your midline.
We made a long-term investment. We're going to have another bet. We're going to be sending this thing back and forth. I figured, you get it, you might as well put the money into it. So
our postal service guys are going to wonder what in the world's going on.
Yeah, thousands of dollars. Don't worry, I'll expense it. I'm not going to pay for it. That's Nirvana's price. So
exactly.
Yeah. We're going to have to come up with another bet, to get some of my dignity back. Let's move on to the next slide, Mason. Here we go. So where direct current actually fits in all this, and we kind of alluded to some of it, but how do we unpack this a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and this is really the main premise behind direct current, if you haven't caught on to that yet, I urge you to go watch some more episodes, look into nervotics.com, see what direct current is all about, because really the main benefit is to restore that brain to body connection. We're trying to enhance those pathways, make movement more efficient, make it easier on the body. We don't want to make things hard on the body. And so if we can enhance those natural processes, that natural wave that the brain is sending to those muscles, we typically see quicker and more meaningful results by doing that. And so how do we do that? Well, restoring movement is really the first big thing. We can make the body aware of where faulty movement patterns are, dormant muscles, compensations that we're making in those movements, and then we can find those gaps in efficiency. We can then step back, refine those things so that the body can work more like a well-oiled machine instead of a bunch of individually operating components. Because as soon as everybody kind of gets internal and wants to just start working on their own, and when I say everybody, I mean the different parts of the body, that's where issues start to arise. We need synergy within the body, or else things are just going to start to go wrong. And so what we do then is we reinforce that restoration of movement and those efficient neural pathways by getting into it with exercise, functional or strength training. And so if we can amplify that natural contraction that the body's already doing and the speed of that contraction, we can see a much more powerful muscle spindle reaction. And in turn, this is going to help build muscle without the external tensions, shearing forces, so on and so forth that we see with your traditional resistance training.
And I like this breakdown because, the first two I think are obvious to people when they get the device. Mm-hmm. They're trying to do the first two, certainly improving communication, pulling them out of that fight or flight, getting the movement back, perhaps even better movement in some cases. I think the last point is when people neglect it. I think that's when this device collects dust and just sits back there and does nothing. I can't stress that last one enough. It's just as important. Don't think just because you're out of pain, it's, the day's over and you're going to just start doing regular workouts. I do think there is a place to use direct current with your workouts, where you're constantly retraining and possibly improving while using this device. So don't overlook that third one. That's my point.
That's such a good point too, because I think, like you said, more often than not, us as human beings, we're very reactive people. When something pops up and goes wrong, we immediately want to try to fix it. But what we're trying to do, Jake, myself, anybody else in this direct current army, is we're trying to get people to become more proactive, get ahead of things, make sure that the body's in line so you're not addressing things when they pop up. And I that's why I love the reinforce with exercise too. I've got more of an artsy analogy with this one. We're going to fade away from the car analogy for a second. And for all of my artsy people, kind of think of like a piece of clay. What we're doing in those first two stages is we're really molding the clay. It's just a big old ball of clay. And we're trying to get it into this beautiful vase or this bowl or a mug for our mother. And so we have to mold and add the handle to it, make sure it's functional. But then do we just leave that wet piece of clay sitting there and give it to mom in a box? No, we put it through the kiln. We make sure everything's solidified, hardened, and ready to go so that it will withhold for years and years and years, and mom can enjoy coffee out of it. So that's where I kind of make that connection between what we're doing here in those first couple of stages and then how we really solidify and seal the deal with that reinforcing with exercise stage.
We had different teachers on making those clay pot things. So, mine couldn't hold sand, let alone water. So, but hey, more power to you if you had that breakdown and you're that good at making pottery. I'm proud of you.
I never said I was good, but I at least gave it a shot back in the day just to get the grade.
I love the analogy because it's actually so true, and it is. I think sometimes our body does get overlooked, and we should treat it like a piece of art and be careful with it and do the maintenance on it that's necessary so it performs, at the levels that it should, And as I'm seeing people creep in, don't forget we are live. So if you are here, make sure you leave your questions. We'll get to them in just a moment. Let's move on to this next video before we go into that final slide, Mason. This is another doctor. We're talking modalities, and a lot of times people will have certain things and how do you use them together? I feel like this doctor did a really good job in putting some recovery modalities together, also using direct current. Check it out.
Here we got Dan, kind of just chilling out, working on a 4x4 breathing pattern, which is a 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 second hold pattern using the ARP neuro set up with the feet.
I'm going to pause for a second. So the 4x4 breathing pattern, in the past, maybe they changed it. We used to call that box breathing in the military, but that alone has, proven to kind of lower the heart rate. So he's taking that concept, which you can just do on your own. So if you don't even have direct current, all he's suggesting is you take 4 seconds to breathe in, you hold it for 4 seconds, and then a 4-second exhale. We were always taught to do that maybe 10 times. You'd be surprised on how your heart rate drops, but it didn't stop here. So let's continue on.
As the positive lead, and then working our way up into the neck with a negative lead, and having this on at a really low intensity so that we can really help down regulate the system. So the current is kind of going through the feet, working its way up into the neck, and then back down the opposite side of the body to the other side of the foot. A really amazing way, coupled with some red light, coupled with a good breathing pattern to really down regulate his nervous system, get him calm, and get that nervous shut down.
So he's attacking this from 3 different angles, Mason. He's doing the breathing, the box breathing. He's got the red light therapy, and there's some studies that have shown that to work a little bit. And then you have direct current, which, I think by itself, any of these can do something, but you put them all together, you kind of have a good result package. What do you think of that?
Yeah, this is kind of like that full-on birthday cake of all these different modalities and different therapies that you can use. He's using, like you said, he's using breath work too, which I would argue is either a form of, you could say, rehabilitative exercise, or it's also a form of manual therapy in a sense, just non-hands-on manual therapy. And so what that's doing is obviously helping to kind of recenter the system, re-regulate the system. Jake, I know you and I are big on different types of breath work. We did it out in Arizona, had that really cool experience getting to do that breath work with external modalities as well, and just how helpful that was. You kind of came out of that ready to wrestle a lion, I thought, for a second. So breath work can be so powerful. And then combining that, yes, with red light therapy, which we've seen to have benefits with it as well at a cellular level, and then take another cellular level device that we know and love and just are tried and true in with direct current. And you're just giving the body the best chance to recover, bounce back, and be at 100% way quicker than anybody who just gets done with activity and then hits the couch and calls it a night.
Yes, that well said. And I think this segues perfectly to this final thing as we're, kind of closing up just on a surface level. We can certainly go deeper with this. But taking your foot off the brake, and it seems sort of counterintuitive, right? One of the things I've learned, before I let you sort of unpack this, Mason, I even learned this with direct current. In some cases, less intensity has been better. In the beginning, there was this idea that everybody's got to get to 100 to see improvement. That's laughable now that we know, the differences and how seldom you actually have to. And in fact, how rare it should be to get to 100 unless you're kind of doing it naturally and letting your body to adapt. And, that 100 milliamps, that intensity, if you've ever been on it, you'll know how ridiculous that would be on certain settings. This is one of those cases, right? Taking your foot off the brake, less is more in this case. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. I mean, if you're getting spasticity out of a muscle, if you're seeing just unwanted extra contraction from a muscle, you don't really want to enhance and amplify that contraction more and more and more. But what we've seen and what we've found is what you can do is use that external stimulation, like with a direct current device at lower output levels, to introduce an external stimuli, pull the brain's focus off of that muscle that is freaking out and spazzing out, and redirect that focus to these other surrounding structures, getting everything to work in conjunction with each other. So that is a huge thing, Jake. I know that it took me a little bit once I started working with direct current to kind of grasp that concept of you can loosen and let muscles relax by stimulating them and contracting them. And I know one of the things was talking through your situation that you've spoken on a little bit, like with your hip, and how it was those lower output powers that allowed things to release and relax. And then once you got those things to release and relax, then it was about locking that in, reinforcing that with that exercise and that strength. So your body understood this is what the new normal is. The old normal was bad, but I've got this new normal here where my body is working efficiently, doing the right things. And that's why I'm getting better results from it.
I'm going to share a story. This is not a flex. This is a story of stupidity. Look, you can't take me too seriously. I'm wearing a sparkly crown. This is a true story. There's doctors in Chicago that can verify it. This was before the hip issue, but it's going to the intensity. And then it'll get to the hip, but we were testing to see, how intense you can get. I don't know why we did this. We took 4 of these RX 100s, and I had 4 pads on one arm, 4 pads on another arm, 4 pads on legs, 4 pads on the other leg, one on the right, one on the left. So technically I had 4 machines going. We maxed it up to 100. So technically I had 400 milliamps pulsating through my body. Maximum intensity. The mindset used to be that. To your point, Mason, when I was going through hip issues, that was my thought process. Well, I got to crank it up more. I even put a second device on it, cranked that up and maxed it out. Going to 100 is no problem for me. Was not seeing any benefits. I started for a week. I decided I'm just going to run blood flow for a while, which, if you're familiar with DC at this point, blood flow, you're shutting off that top current wave, and you have this electrical magnetic pulse where you're just lubricating that area with your natural body's blood flow, but contained in that location. Did it all day. I started to see some benefits. Then I started going light contractions, noticed even more benefits. To your point, less was more for me. What I needed, because it's like it was all these rubber bands kind of locked in like this, and that milliamp of going lighter and just getting blood flow was allowing those rubber bands to sort of kind of become more pliable. And before I knew it, my range of motion was improving. I wasn't, it wasn't as grindy bone on bone. And then I was able to max it out and get into more of that intensity, but it started with less, meaning, to your point, I had to kind of let my foot go off the brake.
We just naturally, as humans, we want to continue to push ourselves. I know you and I do that. I sit there intentionally before a session, tell myself, this is going to be low output numbers. We're just trying to relax. And then 3 minutes into it, I'm reaching over for the plus button or the up arrow to add more current to it. So it's, we totally understand that thought process of wanting more. It's just being intentional with these sessions where we're trying to get the body to let its guard down. We're trying to get spasticity to loosen up, or trying to get muscles themselves to loosen up, I should say. It's about just being intentional with that and trusting the process. Because what we've seen is as you couple those low output sessions together, you start to get that relaxation effect, which is contrary to popular belief that It's only for tension and tightening muscles up and strengthening them. So I think that that's the big thing, is this is about intention. It's about kind of understanding and knowing what your body needs at that time, but you can see some really, really beneficial results from implementing something like direct current for that.
Yeah. Well said. I like it. It's got to be, you have to have that intention, and don't worry about increasing the intensity. There's a place for that. We'll talk about that. We're getting to it. But as we wrap this up, this is the guts of the material today. So if you have any questions, kind of reach out. And so before we move on, this is probably my favorite part of the show. We want to bring in your questions, your scenarios, and real world situations that you're running into. It's a little segment we like to call the Current Check.
Current check, let's go. Questions live, now we're in the flow. We bring the spark, we bring the tech. Tech talks live, it's the Current Check.
Beautiful. All right. So before we even get into that, Mason, I have a question for you. So we work with a lot of people. They've become fans of this show. It's, because we're new. This is our 13th episode. Is there? Yeah. My goodness. So we already went through 13. Is there a 13th or 12?
I thought 11 or 12 I might have had written down. I'm not sure. We've got enough now that we're getting confused on what number it is.
I'm pretty sure it's 13. Well, anyways, I got into a discussion with somebody. We were talking about the GOAT. He happened to have Michael Jordan in his background. We disagreed on who the GOAT was with Michael Jordan, which is pretty common. I'm Chicago through and through. I watched Jordan play. I've watched LeBron play, obviously, but that's not the question I want to ask. It's a little away from direct current. I'm not going to ask you who Jordan and LeBron, who the GOAT is. I think that one's too obvious. But to me, I want to give you my definition of the GOAT. It's not championships. It's not wins. It's not points. It's not necessarily the one that always has the ball, although it is in some cases. To me, the GOAT is this. It's the championship game, game 7. I don't care what sport it is. It's the final game, final few seconds. You have the two that you're comparing it to. Who would you rather have the ball? Who would you rather have control over it? And to me, the GOAT is the one who wants it and who often closes in victory. I've seen Jordan do that time and time again. Now, here's my question to you, Mason. As I say all that, I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know much about soccer. What I do know is Messi and Ronaldo have always been compared as who's the GOAT, who's the GOAT. And they talk about Pele. That's probably even a different comparison. He's like the Babe Ruth probably of soccer, kind of how baseball is. Who's the GOAT in baseball? Everyone goes to Babe Ruth. I think that's unfair. But between Ronaldo and Messi, he's in the moment. He's biggest game, biggest stage of soccer, final game. I didn't think he showed up. To me, does that weaken him in the discussion of the GOAT, or do I just not know enough about soccer to say, hey, you can't define this on this one moment?
God, that's such a good question, and I feel like I've been briefly reading about it this week on kind of the impact on legacy and whatnot. I don't know if you saw, he's taken a 25 day or 21 day rest period. So Inter Miami won't have him for the next 3 weeks for their first few games. I think it does. I think it has to have some sort of impact on his legacy. The hard thing is, though, is he was just so commandeering every game before that. And it might not have been for the full 90 minutes, but it was right when they needed it, man. What did we say? The 75th minute on, don't mess with Argentina, because that's where they're just going to pack 3 or 4 goals in. So I think it's something that'll get mentioned when you step back and you talk about his legacy. How much of a negative impact it plays, I don't know, because at least for me, who I'm green to it, I'm ignorant to it a little bit. When I think about the soccer GOATs, there's kind of that big 3 or 4 of Pele, Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, and Messi is kind of the first few that come to my mind. And then you've got your people like Neymar and, dare I say, Pulisic, representing the Americans. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know if it'll have that much of a negative impact on it, but I think it's still something that we'll mention is the 26 World Cup and how it was that close to kind of that Cinderella storybook ending.
Here's my thing. I don't think every generation has a GOAT in every sport. I think it's if you see a GOAT in any sport in your generation, I think you're lucky. I think we saw it. And I got to tell you, this is not a dig to LeBron or anybody else at basketball. Going back to my definition of the GOAT, Jordan, when he touched the ball, he won the game. And I've seen him do that over and over and over again in every big game. You don't see that with all these other supposed GOATs. It's always about the championship. It's always about the ring. It's always about the wins, but it's not about the character of that individual, that killer instinct of I'm either going to win or you're going to have to kill me to beat me. That mindset of Rocky and Drago kind of going at it. That's a GOAT. You're not going to get that every generation, kiddos. I'm sorry. It's not happening.
And here's the thing. I was actually kind of bummed that you didn't ask me the very traditional I almost just ruined it. I'm kind of sad you didn't ask me the traditional like Jordan or LeBron question, because I'm always the guy that throws that curveball in there and kind of ticks people off, because if I get asked between those two, my GOAT is Kobe. Kobe's my GOAT because Kobe
Why is he not in the discussion?
Kobe woke up. It's numbers. That's why he's not in the discussion as much. And, they had, I think, a little bit longer careers. But you watch any Kobe interview. Like if I want to get up and get after some emails, I watch that Kobe interview when they won game 2 in the playoffs. And they're like, well, how you feeling? Like they basically thought it was wrapped up. And Kobe just sat there stone faced. Job's not finished. Job's not finished. Yeah. Job's not done. Like that gets me pumped up. Yeah, exactly. So I was kind of bummed, but you know what? I'm still going to throw my answer in. This is Yours and I show. I can throw my answer in if I want. So Kobe's my GOAT. If anybody wants to go toe to toe with that, now they know who Mason's GOAT is. It's Kobe.
To be fair, and Howard, this is not a dig because I know Howard's that's who I was talking to, and great dude, and knows DC's awesome. He's doing great things with it. But yeah, that's kind of Kobe would be my second pick. It's like if I had 3 of them and they were on the dream team, who's going to take the final shot? No offense, it's not going to be LeBron. He hasn't proven it. Occasionally, I've seen him do it, but Jordan was known for it. And Kobe would be my go-to if Jordan happened to have like diarrhea and had to kind of sit the bench for a while or go to the locker room. And it's like, all right, Kobe, it's your time, bud.
Could you imagine if the flu game would have ended like that, him having to go to the locker room instead of taking that shot on the free throw line over Elo? Like, could you
pretty epic.
That's like a Mandela moment or the butterfly effect right there, where like everybody's lives could have changed if he didn't hit the shot in the flu game.
Anybody who hasn't watched Jordan play, you got to Google the Michael Jordan flu game. It was unbelievable. I'll never forget that game because I watched it as a kid. Like I said, I lived in Chicago, was a big Jordan fan, so I watched every game. All right, let's get to questions. I didn't mean to drag that on as long as we did, but this is a good question. So, Run Like a Mother by 3. I work from home and get a lot of hand pain from sending emails all day. Is there a hand protocol you can recommend? Good question.
The hand bath is great. And this ties great into our conversation today as well, is the hand bath is a great protocol. But what we say is the hand bath is one of those protocols where you don't want to push the numbers. You want to just introduce that calming electrical stimulation into the shoulder and arm complex, can help get some things to relax. I also like strengthening exercises, as backwards as that kind of sounds, because the hand and the wrist get tired and you get some pain from that. I think strengthening is very helpful with that, because what it could be happening is you're putting more effort, more stress, more demand on smaller structures that don't have the strength to hold themselves up. But what you could do is get better support out of the forearm muscles, finger muscles, wrist muscles that aren't activating. And if you get more support out of those different complexes or different muscle groups, then less of the force or the brunt is put on 1 or 2 single structures.
Yeah, I like how you said, this one is going to be one of those less intense ones that like kind of pull off the, maybe lay the brake down a little bit. You don't want to get too intense on this one. And we've seen better results with that. We've also discovered lately that the hand bath isn't always the best option just because it's hand. I think doing more of a water bath with your feet in the water, maybe going to points that you're struggling. You can even go like top of your forearm and maybe inside. So your pronator muscle, which is right there, that little ball muscle there. And then the top one here, that meatier portion on the top of your forearm, your brachioradialis, maybe surround that with the 2 red pads and run the water bath that way. Maybe we'll do another electricity and water bath episode. We need a part 2 of that one.
I know you've got a lot of good ones that can apply to a lot of different spots of the body. I actually just sent off the knee one this morning, though, nice. Where you surround with the 2 reds around the knee. I just sent that one off because it's just, you especially have been able to just kind of grow these bath protocols into things that are so much better. You know, I knew you were going to have something better than the hand bath to come off of that. So for everybody keeping track at home, that was more of an assist right there. You know, Jake definitely just Scottie Pippen for me right there. So I don't know how we score that at home. That's up to you folks, but there was definitely some good meat in there about what Jake has with some of these modified bath protocols.
If LeBron is King James, am I Queen Jake?
Queen Cousins.
I got one more. I know we've said too much. I do want to ask this question to you, Mason, because it's regarding last week, and I don't want to assume, but it doesn't sound like it's a female. If someone listening has no pain going back to your pelvic floor protocol, how would they know if their pelvic floor is actually weak or not functioning the way it should be?
It's a good question. I think the biggest signs for pelvic floor weakness that you're going to get, and again, they're a little uncomfortable to talk about, but it would be unwanted incontinence, sexual reproductive organs that aren't working as they should. Those are going to be 2 of the biggest signs. So if you're coughing, sneezing, laughing and getting a little bit of extra coming out that you didn't intend to, that's going to be one of the biggest signs. And that doesn't always come with pain. And it can just be that feeling of weakness when you cough or sneeze as well. If you feel like that floor is kind of giving out on you, if you're feeling bulges or extra pressure in unwanted or areas that don't typically get it, that's usually a good sign as well. But again, there's other ways to tell too that we're still learning also, that there's ways to find these different tensions as well that pop up too. But from Jake and I's perspective, those are 2 of the biggest ways to kind of determine if that pelvic floor isn't holding up its job and is a little bit on the weaker end.
You know, it's the pelvic floor. That was last week's Tech Talk. I'm still getting questions from it. There's a lot of response. We'll probably end up speaking of part 2s. There will be another part 2 in that one. We've realized like there's not a lot that has been done with direct current on pelvic floor. There probably has, but it's not being shared. So we've been doing some deeper dives. We probably will hopefully get a doctor on that wants to talk about it, that does it all the time. And she uses direct current to kind of assist in that. So felt like I'd ask that one from you. Just to kind of close out. We kind of out of a time on this one. That'll close the current checks. But if you have any questions, make sure you leave it in the comment section. We'll get it to you, get it next time. That was a case of that one last week, but that closes out on current check.
Current check, let's go. Questions live, now we're in the flow. We bring the spark, we bring the tech talks live. It's the current check.
Now we want to shift gears and highlight something from the field. Every week we're seeing real people, real stories, and real examples of how direct current is being used in performance, recovery, training, and of course, everyday life. Some are from athletes, some are from providers, and some are from clients, and some are just too good not to share. This is a little moment we like to call the spotlight of the week. Check it out.
I was in a car accident in September, and I've used your guys' stuff religiously now. And when you guys brought out the DX for us and we have that, like, I don't ever go anywhere with that. If Chase doesn't have it, it's in my bag with me all the time, right? And, you know, perfect case example, we were in Vegas 3 weeks ago for my daughter's volleyball tournament. Well, walking on the concrete for 3 solid days and sleeping in hotel beds, all that, like, my back was barking. It was not good. And so I was literally sitting at the game with the DX on my back. Wow. And a couple of dads were like, "What is that?" And I'm like, I started talking about it, and they're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And that just piques conversations, right? But it's like, I'm not trying to show, I'm trying to hide it, but like, if I can sit here and get relief while I'm doing this, watching my daughter and do two things at one time, great. And that's what I love about the DX, right? Is I can do multiple things. Now we're pairing that with the BFR at the same time. Like the BFR recovery cycle is 30 minutes. All right, cool. Let's throw this on there for a little bit while we're doing it, right? And same thing with Jess, our performance coach. She has a non-surgical torn Achilles. She's been using the foot bath. You guys walk into the foot bath, right, with the BFR and all that stuff too. And she's up hollowing around. She's now walking with no boot on anymore. And it's crazy.
I should have said that was John Philman. You and I were at his facility. We even streamed live for a while. He has such a great facility. So many cool toys. Talk about tech talks. We could be in a field day. We tried a lot of his tech, fun stuff. Boy, it'd be kind of cool to do a live show there someday.
You took the word. As soon as you said that, I was like, next time we're out in Arizona, we got a plan around that. That would be super cool to basically just do a tour of all the different technology they have. Cause yeah, their facility is awesome. It's beyond performance. It's about prepping and getting ready for what that next level of being a baseball athlete looks like, whether you're going high school to college, college to pros to get into the Hall of Fame. That's what they're doing there at Prime. And yeah, they've got a whole cocktail of different modalities. Jake, I was telling you yesterday, I know John and Chase and the rest of the boys, they're in Georgia right now, I believe, for the All-Star game, basically for their age group. And he had posted a picture and he basically had like a whole forklift palette of different modalities that and toys and tech that they were bringing there. So I can promise you that Prime Reaction tent, that tent with all of those boys, is going to have the best recovery, the best performance, best activation all around. Prime is doing it right. And that was a non-paid sponsorship there.
Yeah, they're the future. There's a lot, I think that's kind of the direction a lot of these facilities are going, and they set a standard that's kind of hard to match. Fun stuff. That's John Philman on the Rewired podcast. We'll leave that in the link below. I highly encourage you to check it out. He shares a lot of great stories. Check out his facility if you can, and if you have a son or daughter who's in volleyball or baseball, I think those are his like kind of specialties. You may want to check him out for that.
Yeah.
Before we look ahead, let's rewind for a second. We sort of alluded to this in the Q&A portion. Last week, we talked about a topic that connects directly to what we do here at Nervotics, but that's, kind of going after some of these points. Your core has a floor, talking about pelvic floor. So if you missed it, I highly recommend you check that out. The pelvic floor, going over some protocols and some benefits to kind of improve that.
You know how your phone works, Jake, and the algorithm, your phone's always listening, right? I've probably seen, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 different people just around in my area posting about it, asking about it, just having kind of these random inquiries about it. It's kind of odd how that works, but I feel like more and more people are paying attention to things like that. So yeah, if you're kind of wondering how to get started, how the heck does direct current affect or get involved with pelvic floor, last week's episode is perfect for that.
Yeah, it surprised us. It was a sleeper. We thought it would be a very kind of unpopular video, not a lot of comments, and a lot of good looks and a lot of questions that are still coming in. Because of the tightness of my head right now with the pressure of this metal crown that's squeezing my temples so hard, I think the brain's going to ooze out a little bit. What a perfect opportunity to talk about next week. Next week, we are talking about the pressure point. Again, we go over certain things, and we're kind of vague on the idea of what's going on with direct current and what this can do. We have seen a lot of benefits, though. I've seen it personally take away tension headaches. I haven't seen it, cure migraines, but I have seen the migraine flare-ups. They're a lot shorter than they usually are using direct current, and we are going to do a deeper dive into the pressure point on how direct current can help with tension headaches and migraines. A must watch.
Most definitely. Looking forward to this one. A lot of people in my circle that I know this can affect. And I think you're spot on with that too, Jake, is that we're never saying direct current is going to cure an issue. We'd be wrong to say that. But what we are saying is that those symptoms that you're dealing with, that laundry list of things that are impeding on your day to day, what we do see and what we do know and believe in is the fact that direct current can help to reduce those symptoms, lessen those symptoms that are impeding on you. And that's what we're going to talk about next week.
Perfect for if you get a lot of headaches and You know, I certainly had one on Sunday. In August, we're taking this topic one step further. Speaking of pelvic floor, and it was such a success that we decided for the next live workout, that's what we're going to do. We're going to guide you through the exercises that you can do from home. And we're going to show you how to use direct current in tandem with these movements. Answer your questions live so you can start putting these ideas into practice right away. So even here's my suggestion to anybody, even if you don't have any of these DC devices, and you're joining in, come along, because we're going to show you some movements that you can do with it that'll help benefit. But direct current, there's ways you don't even have to do movements and see some benefit on that. These are fun, these live workouts.
Yeah, I've been really I enjoyed the first one that we did. I'm looking forward to the one that we're doing here on the 7th. So yeah, come on, join us 9 a.m. on a Friday. We're going to be doing that pelvic floor workout. And yeah, great point too, Jake, that you don't need the DC device. This is just a good way to kind of learn how you can kickstart that pelvic floor routine or protocol. But then I bet you're probably going to want a DC device on top of that too, after you kind of see some of these workouts, some of these movements, and what we can do with them.
We highly recommend it. Once you have it, once you use it, and if you're using it properly, you're never going to want to give it back. I can promise you that. We have a mission here at Nervotics. The goal is always to try to get that everywhere. And the only way to get that everywhere is through all of you. And that's where we want to see you like, share, subscribe, follow, click the little bell so you can get notifications, but share it with others that you think will benefit from it. The only way to get it out there everywhere is through all of you. So we can't encourage you to do that enough. Thank you so much. Mason, here we are. It's the bet that I lost. Any final thoughts? Digs, jokes, remarks, crown things, whatever you want to do.
Let me go grab the bucket of things that I've got. No, just kidding. I think the biggest takeaway I have, it relates back to the crown. I couldn't stop thinking about it all episode, but what I also couldn't stop thinking about is that we have to stop thinking about protection as an enemy. Your nervous system, it's always moving. It never shuts down. From the minute you're born to the minute that you say goodbye, your nervous system does not stop. And so it's always evaluating what feels safe, what feels threatening, and how much movement or force it's really going to want to allow. Pain, swelling, instability, fear, and previous injury, all those things we talked about initially can keep that protective response active and never allow it to calm down. When that happens, the body may still have the same engine under the hood, but it's trying to perform with the brakes slammed to the floor. And that's where direct current can truly fit, because it's providing sensory input. It's supporting communication between the nervous system and the muscles and tissues. And it can be paired with movement. I think that's a big thing, so that you can reinforce better patterns, better muscular firings. The goal isn't to overpower the nervous system. It's to give it better information and then prove through that quality movement that we've talked about that the body can do more in a safer fashion. And then last but not least, I couldn't go on that little soapbox without saying, Jake, I have to congratulate you. You may have lost the wager, but you truly did handle the tiara of despair, the crown of, what'd you call it? The crown of, I forget. You had a name for it. The crown of something.
Crown of shame?
Crown of shame. There we go. I like that. You handled it, Jake, with grace and dignity, expected out of somebody like the Queen of Argentina. If you want to, though, I will allow you to decrown yourself, because I don't know if I would have lasted that long if Spain would have lost.
Ouch. Thank you, Mason. Thank you. How appropriate. Look, I'm glad that after an entire episode about reducing stress and calming the nervous system, you chose to end by activating my fight or flight response one final time because of this thing squeezing my head. But the message today is important. We often do assume that better performance always requires more effort, more intensity, and more strength. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes the strength is already there, though. The body simply does not feel confident enough to use it sometimes. Direct current is not going to be a shortcut, and it doesn't replace exercise. It can be a tool. Keep that in mind. That helps improve communication, restore movement, and create a better opportunity for exercise to reinforce what the nervous system should keep. So when the body is struggling, don't always ask how much harder you can press the gas. Ask what's keeping the brake on, because sometimes the next level of performance does not come from pushing harder. It comes from finally taking your foot off the brake. And with that, this crown is eventually going to be coming off the moment we end this broadcast.
Don't lie. You know that crown empowers you a little bit.
Open book. You know, when I have this crown on, I'm no longer Jake. I have now deemed myself Goosesis, the tiara-wearing Greek god of geese. And I got to go because my flock awaits.
Yeah, you do, Jake. We're going to see everybody next week on the next Tech Talks.
You know, there was days I'd walk in the rink being like, I can't play. And I would do this. It's called a search and destroy. And I would go out there and be great, be good to go.
Shootout specialist, TJO's better than 15% in his career.
A dazzling goal from TJOG.
So I actually got into it because I was so injured. In St. Louis, I was lifting like super, super heavyweight. I mean, my back was just like terrible. My hips and everything. I used it before one game. Chris Porter let me use it to warm up and my back pain like disappeared. I went in the first day and it was the hardest training I've ever done. You know, you see guys sitting there and the pads are on and you think people just sit there. Like you don't. You basically go in the gym and you just fail.
It's like a muscle stimulant, like it's a stim machine where it's pulsating.
And so the thought process behind it is training your nervous system. The more efficient it is, the better you're going to be. You train in certain positions to prevent injuries and things like that. I think I played way longer than I would have if I didn't start it.
So you put it on your quads and you do a lunge. You're holding in a static position and you're trying to like fatigue the muscle essentially.
Yeah, that's part of it. It helps you like recruit the correct muscles. So like if you're in a lunge, right, your front leg, you should be pulling down with your hamstring. And like you would never think about that. You kind of just fall and then use your quads to like jump back up. And so if you were doing that, it might be on your hamstring and a different part of your, maybe it's your lats to like hold you up like this, you know what I mean? So it helps you train in the proper position. The form is like very, very important when you're doing it. I mean, we use it for sleep, for recovery, for warm-ups. When you're resting and it's still going, you're still firing the right muscles, even though you're resting. So it's the hardest training I've ever done, for sure. I don't think I've ever done the same workout 2 days ever since it started. Like every day is like a different program, but it can be anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. If you're injured, it teaches your brain that like it's okay to fire certain muscles when they shut down to like prevent worse injury. And so like a lot of times like I'd have like problems in my hamstring and that would be because of my hip flexor. You know, there was days I'd walk in the rink being like, I can't play. And I would do this, go out there and be great, be good to go. I think I played way longer than I would have if I didn't start it.